So in a few weeks' time, Parkrun will celebrate its 20th anniversary.
So from the 13 runners that took part in the Bushy Park time trial in 2004, Parkrun has grown immensely.
That's right, every week over 300,000 people take part in Parkrun, and I think last week they reached their 10 millionth registered parkrunner.
So over those 20 years, Parkrun has remained committed to the 3 principles of being free, weekly and timed.
But also during those 20 years, Parkrun has seen many significant changes. And in this video, we're going to take you through 10 changes that we've seen in Parkrun since we started in 2008. We're going to give each one a grade of whether it's a thumbs up, an improvement, a neutral, or a thumbs down, and see if you agree with what we think.
And stick around to the end, because we will then take you through a few more changes that we think may occur in the next few years
in Parkrun world. So we're filming this on a September morning in the beautiful Clumber Park in Nottinghamshire, one of our favourite parkrun venues. So the first change in Parkrun world is actually the name Parkrun itself, because the first 8 events, I think, were actually set up as time trials. Bushy Park Parkrun was Bushy Park Time Trial. The one up near us, which is now Woodhouse Moor Parkrun, was the Hyde Park Time Trial in Leeds. But I think about late 2008, they changed the name from Time Trial to Parkrun, and I think it's been a massive success.
Yes, so Parkrun is an instantly recognisable brand, and even those people who have never done a parkrun have an idea of what it is.
So the name change gets a big thumbs up, being massively successful, with the caveat that we shouldn't forget Parkrun's origins as a time trial, and the fact that many people who run Parkrun each week still use it as a fitness tester and time trial. But as Parkrun's so inclusive, everybody is celebrated for the way they want to access their Parkrun. So the second big change in Parkrun over the last 20 years is in a number of Parkrun events, both in the UK and around the world. Initially, Parkrun growth was quite slow, with it taking 3 years from the first Parkrun in Bushy Park in 2004 to the first one being held outside the M25 in Leeds in 2007.
And boy, has it grown. There are now nearly 800 Parkruns in the UK and several hundred around the world.
And not only has the number of Parkruns grown, so has the participation level. When we did our first Parkrun in Cardiff back in 2008, I think there were 30 odd finishers.
Yeah.
And when we last visited Cardiff for Dawn's 500th Parkrun, there were well over 600. And that's mirrored in most places around the country. Some Parkruns regularly get in excess of 1,000 runners, and last weekend at Bushy Park, when they celebrated their 1000th ever Parkrun, there were well over 6,000 runners taking part.
So the growth in Parkrun gets a big thumbs up, because it allows so many people to enjoy Parkrun on a Saturday morning,
wherever they are. Boy, it's a humid one today. And the third significant change in Parkrun is the fact they no longer just take place on a Saturday morning, but with junior Parkrun, they take place on a Sunday morning too, for juniors to take part in.
Yes, I think that's a great move, because it's great to get young people involved in grassroots sports.
And some may go on to run for local athletics clubs, some may not, but whatever they choose, it's all good. And we're off on yet another Parkrun morning. And the next big change in Parkrun over the years is exemplified by these hundreds of people joining us this morning at Clumber Park Parkrun. And that is its massively broadened appeal and inclusivity. So the first Parkrun we ever did, the last person to cross the line did so in about 26 minutes, sub 9 minute miling. As Parkrun has grown, so has the range of people taking part. We first saw the introduction of tail runners, which became tail walkers. We're now park walkers. So yeah, Parkrun now caters for many hundreds of thousands of people more than it did when we first started. And that's a massively good thing and a big thumbs up from us. So however you want to complete your Parkrun, Parkrun is for you and caters for everybody. and therefore has seen a massive growth in numbers since we first started, and that is to be applauded. Give it some applause.
Hey!
Thank you. So even the marshals applauding that point. So the next change during that era of parkrunning happened around 2011, I think, and that was a change on the website. Instead of saying this week's winners, it said this week's first finishers, which is a bit semantics really, because if you go on any individual parkrun page now and scroll through the event history, it still tells you the first male and first female on each run. So I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Semantics, I guess. So in terms of a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a thumb sideways, what are we doing?
Sideways.
Yeah, makes no difference.
Keep the right end, well done.
So, a few days later, as they say, we did film the other points at Clumber Park, but unfortunately the camera's on the wrong settings, so I'm refilming them today after consultation and agreement from Dawn. So the next big change that's happened in Parkrun over the past 2 decades is the growth of volunteering. Now, when we first started Parkrun, volunteer teams were quite small and they were made up of runners from a particular parkrun who for whatever reason weren't running that week. Maybe they were injured, maybe they had a big race the next day, but the volunteer team were made up of regular runners. But now, as volunteering is seen as a very valuable service in itself and a great way of getting people out and involved in the community, then there are many volunteers these days who've never run and never have any intention of running, but love their weekly volunteering, being part of a team, being part of creating something, and that's absolutely fantastic. So the growth and changing nature of volunteering over the years gets from us a big thumbs up. The next big change that we've seen is in having to pay for milestone t-shirts. Now, back in the day, when you got 50 runs, you got a t-shirt. When you got 100 runs, not only did you get a free Adidas t-shirt, you got a free Adidas jacket, as modelled by me over at Clumber Park. But as the numbers of parkrunners completing various milestones and achieving different clubs has increased, so the need to introduce some cost has come in. I think there are over 1,000 members of the 500 club now, like we are, so it's only natural that these milestones need to be paid for. I mean, you've got 500 free runs and you're paying, I don't know how much it is, something like £18 for a t-shirt. It seems like good value to me. The payment for milestone t-shirts, obviously everybody would prefer them to be free, but it's not particularly negative. I'd say it's a neutral and necessary step in parkrun funding and organisation. Who has been around parkrun long enough to remember the old points competitions? So the idea was, if you finished first at a particular parkrun, you got 100 points, and you would continue to accrue points at that one parkrun, and then at the end of the year, points would be totted up and the winner would get some sort of prize. So it meant people would continue turning up at their parkrun even if they were ill or injured because they wanted to collect the points. It discouraged people from taking on a non-running volunteering role. So a few years ago they were scrapped. Also, something that was scrapped was the Sweatshop Runner of the Month award. So Sweatshop used to sponsor Parkrun. Every parkrun got a free voucher for a pair of trainers from Sweatshop that they could award for running or volunteering credits. That's gone as well, because I think it was just unfeasible for Sweatshop to continue to do that. So more changes in the weekly and monthly life of a parkrun is removal of the points and the removal of the Sweatshop Run of the Month. Again, I think necessary changes as the nature of parkrun has changed. Some people used to enjoy them, most people didn't take much notice, so I think again it's a neutral. So the ninth significant change we've seen over our parkrun years is the introduction of compulsory barcodes. Now, when we first started, you finish your parkrun, you'd approach somebody who would be sat on a table with a laptop, give them your name, and they then have to search for their database and allocate you your finish time to your name. So as parkrun grew, the amount of John Smiths or Sally Browns would have increased beyond the scope of the volunteers to be able to find you. Barcodes were originally a more efficient way for people who wanted to use them. Then they became compulsory at certain events, and then we got to the era of no barcode, no time, and don't forget your barcode. I think barcodes have made the whole parkrun process for runners, for volunteers, for results processes so much more swift and efficient. It's a no-cost option. You just need to print one off. You can buy little wristbands like I've got that put a bit of money back into Parkrun. So for us, the introduction of the barcode system is a massive thumbs up. It makes the whole thing more efficient and smooth for everybody, but don't forget that barcode. And the 10th and final big change you've seen in Parkrun over the years was, I knew this one was coming, the removal of many of the performance stats that people valued and have been built up over those 2 decades of Parkrun. We won't go into all the ins and outs of that because those arguments have been well rehearsed on this channel and elsewhere. But for mature runners like us, the removal of age grading tables and age group statistics were a big retrograde step. It was a massive PR disaster for Parkrun, generated loads of bad feeling and negative publicity. So the stats changes from 2024 for us gets a big thumbs down. So where next for Parkrun? What changes can we expect to see in the forthcoming years? Well, this is the big picture I see for what it's worth. In the years preceding and following the London Olympics of 2012, there was a big push and lots of support for grassroots sporting events and organisations. Parkrun fitted the bill perfectly in getting hundreds of thousands of people into regular physical exercise, and the funding was there to enable them to grow it. In more recent times, concern has shifted to people's mental health and well-being, and also government support for initiatives that can support people's mental health and well-being has increased. So our hunch is that in forthcoming years, Parkrun will shift its focus away from the running and competition side and more onto the participation, well-being and being there side. So the big challenge Parkrun HQ faces is how not to throw away that valuable inheritance of the sport and recreation aspect of Parkrun, whilst bringing on board more of the mental health and well-being aspect. So we have a feeling that one change that may well be being considered is to do away with the weekly results, basically in race format, and people just getting their individual results not comparable with others. We also think that age grading might cease to be a thing, because for everybody who gets an 80 or 90% like Dawn often does, there'll be people being told they're on 30 or 40%, which might be discouraging and affect that mental health and well-being which Parkrun is trying to encourage. So there we go, our take as experienced Parkrunners on changes we've seen over the years and where we think Parkrun might be heading in the future. So we hope you have enjoyed this exploration of Parkrun's history and some of the changes we've seen over the years. Let us know if you agree or disagree with anything we've said. We'd love to know. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, and if you'd like to see us do further Parkruns in the future, whatever they may look like and whatever the results might look like, then please consider subscribing to the channel.
So until next time, keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.